So with this question, we're talking about the respiratory system and about how things, how ventilation, gas exchange, those types of processes occur. So one thing that you definitely want to know very, very well is the process of ventilation. So ventilation is how air goes in and how air goes out. And that's just so vital here because you'll see that the majority of these questions that we've gathered are actually to do with air going in and out. So what muscle action is occurred? So the diaphragm contracts. Yep, so that is true. The diaphragm does contract. So you have to. So if we took a cross section, so if you're looking at me on the side, from the left-hand side, and you're looking at my lungs, then what you see is something like this. And this is our diaphragm at the bottom in red here. And our intercostal muscles, we've got the external ones in green on the outside and the internal ones in blue on the inside. So then the way that it works is that during inspiration, then this one actually comes down to make the volume inside bigger. So what would the green thing do? The green part would also come out as well. So that would contract. And then the blue thing, the blue thing would just relax, okay? Good. Okay, so you'd expect the diaphragm to contract, absolutely. How about the external intercostal muscles to relax? So they're saying that the green one would not come out. Well, that's not true because we want the green ones to come out during inspiration. We want the thoracic cavity, the volume, the TC, the thoracic cavity volume to increase. And if the green muscles weren't to expand outwards, then you wouldn't get an increase in volume. So it's not B. C, the internal intercostal muscles contract. So this is incorrect because if the internal intercostal muscles contracted, you'd expect the blue ones to go in. And what would happen to the size of the thoracic cavity volume? They would actually go down. So that's incorrect as well. And finally, the abdominal muscles to contract. So once again, something I did leave out was the abdominal muscles kind of the surface. And when they contract, they actually kind of push inside. So if that was the push inside, what would happen to the thoracic cavity of the thoracic cavity volume? Well, that would actually become smaller. It's kind of like, if, so if you have your volume here, and it kind of gets pushed in like that, wouldn't it? So that would actually make the volume smaller. So that is an incorrect answer. Therefore, the answer is A. Question number 2, what is the function of the structure labeled X? So these structures here are the alveoli, and they are involved in what is known as gas exchange. So where you exchange carbon dioxide for oxygen. And now ventilation, that is not true, because ventilation is actually to do with these muscles that are in between the ribs or the costa, so the intercostal muscles, as well as the diaphragm at the bottom, and the abdominal muscles. Okay? So it's not that one. Respiration, not really. Inspiration is a part of ventilation as well. So therefore the correct answer is A. Question number 3. Which of the following features of the alveoli adapt them to gaseous exchange? So you need to know about the key features of gaseous exchange. And when you think about that, you need to talk about surface area to volume ratio. That's one which is very important. Okay, so surface area to volume ratio is not actually mentioned here, funnily enough, but things that are mentioned are single layer of cells. So that is correct, because if you had a very thick layer of cells, then the oxygen would have a long way to go through, and then it wouldn't be very efficient. It would be decreased efficiency. So a single layer of cells is very helpful for efficiency. Okay. A film of moisture. Film of moisture is very important for these gases, which actually dissolve better when they're in fluid. So that's correct as well. And 3, a dense network of capillaries. So once again, if we have capillaries at the bottom of this, at the bottom or at the other side of this cell layer, then what can happen is that the oxygen can dissolve into the bloodstream and get taken away. And then this helps to maintain the concentration gradient. So remember with the concentration gradient, say for inside the blood, you want to maintain the blood to have low O2 and to have high CO2. And this way, what happens? The O2 from the atmosphere moves inside the lungs, inside the blood rather, and the carbon dioxide moves out of the blood into the lungs as well. Okay, so therefore the answer is D. So question 4, what happens to the external and internal intercostal muscles and diaphragm when inhaling? Once again, we're talking about a ventilation question here. So when inhaling, you want the thoracic cavity volume, or the TCV, to increase. So you want the external intercostal muscles to contract. You want the internal intercostal muscles to relax. And you want the diaphragm to pull down or to contract. Remember, the opposite of contraction is relaxation. If it was relaxation, then the diaphragm would go back up. Okay? Good. So let's look at this. In external intercostal muscles, we want them to contract. So it's not A or C. The internal intercostal muscles, we want them to relax. That's correct. And the diaphragm, we want that to contract as well, to pull down. Therefore, the answer is D. Question number 5. What causes air to be breathed out by the lungs? Another ventilation question. So if there's something that you want to know really well about 6.4, it's definitely ventilation, okay? Many questions in the past about it. So, causes air to be breathed out by the lungs. So this is expiration. So what will we expect? We'd be expecting the diaphragm to relax. We're expecting the external intercostal muscles to relax as well. And we'd be expecting the internal intercostal muscles to contract. Okay, so let's look at this. A, the diaphragm relaxes and the ribs fall. Yep, that sounds good. That corresponds to what we talked about, because the internal intercostal muscles contracting means that you're bringing everything down, you're making everything fall, you're making the ribs fall as well. Let's look at B. The ribs rise. No, straight away, that's incorrect. How about C? The internal intercostal muscles contract and the ribs rise. Well, the first part is correct, but the ribs rising is actually incorrect. So therefore, that's not right. D. The diaphragm contracts and internal intercostal muscles contract. Once again, we've got the second part being right, but the first part being incorrect. That would actually cause what? That would actually cause a increase in thoracic cavity volume, which is incorrect. Therefore, the correct answer is A. There are plenty more YouTube videos for you to check out. Just click on the links below. If you'd like to download the questions, as well as the answers, make sure to like us on Facebook first. And finally, if you'd like to find out how I got a 7 in high-level IB biology, make sure to check out our website in the bottom right-hand corner. Thanks.